I mean, if we are inquiring into this question of death, fear must be completely non-existent in us. Then I can proceed. Then I can find out what death means. We've touched a little bit on reincarnation, the belief that is maintained throughout the East, which has no reality in daily life. It's like going to church every Sunday and being mischievous for the rest of the 6 days. So if a person who is really serious, really attentive, goes into this question of death, he must understand what it means, the quality of it, not the ending of it. That's what we're going to a little bit discuss. The ancient Egyptians, the pharaohs and all the first dynasty till the 18th and so on, they prepared for death. They said, we will cross that river with all our goods, with all our chariots, with all our belongings, with all our property, with all our... And therefore their caves, their tombs were filled with all the things of their daily life. Corn, you know all that. So living was only a means to an ending, dying. That's one way of looking at it. The other is reincarnation, which is the Indian Asiatic outlook. And there is this whole idea of resurrection of the Christians. Reborn, carried by Gabriel angel and all that to heaven, and you would be... Now, what is the fact? These are all theories, suppositions, beliefs, and non-facts. I mean, supposed to be born, Jesus come out of the grave, resurrected physically. That is just a belief. There were no cameras there. There were no 10 people say, yes, I saw it. It's only somebody imagined. We'll go into that a little later. So there is this living and preparing for death, is the ancient Egyptians did. Then there is the reincarnation. Then there is the resurrection. Now, if one isn't frightened, you follow, sir, deeply, then what is death? What is it that dies? Apart from the organism. The organism may continue, if you look after it very carefully, for 80 or 90, 100 years. If you have no disease, if you have no accidents, if there is way of living sanely, healthily, perhaps you last 100 years or 110 years. And then what? You follow, sir? You live 100 years. For what? For this kind of life? Fighting, quarreling, bickering, bitterness, anger, jealousy, futility, a meaningless existence. It is meaningless existence, as we are living now.
And in terms of our previous remarks, this is all the content of consciousness.
That's right.
Yes.
Now, so, what is it that dies? And what is it one is frightened of? You follow? Mm-hmm. What is it one is frightened of? Death. Losing the known, losing my wife, losing my house, losing all the things I've acquired, losing this content of consciousness. So, can the content of consciousness totally be emptied? You follow, sir?
Yes, I do.
Which is the living. The dying is the living. When the content is totally emptied. That means no attachment. It is not a brutal cutting off, but the understanding of attachment, the understanding of dependency, the understanding of acquisition, power, position, anxiety, all that. The emptying of that is the real death. And therefore, the emptying of consciousness means the consciousness which has created its own limitation by its content comes to an end. I wonder.
Yes, yes. Yes, you have. I was following you very carefully, and it occurred to me that there is a radical relation between birth and death. That the two, when they are looked upon as moments in a total cycle, are not grasped at the depth level that you're beginning to speak about.
Yes, sir.
Am I correct?
That's correct.
Good. Please do go on.
So, death becomes a living when the content of consciousness, which makes its own frontier, its own limitation, comes to an end. And that this is not a theory, not a speculative intellectual grasp, but the actual perception of attachment. I'm taking that as an example. Being attached to something, property, man, woman, the book I have written, or the knowledge I've acquired, the attachment. And the battle to be detached. But the attachment breeds pain. Therefore, I say to myself, I must be detached, and the battle begins. And the whole content of my consciousness is this, the battle which we described previously.
Yes.
Now, can that content be emptied, empty itself? Not emptied by an act of perception. You know? Empty itself, which means can this whole content be observed with its unconscious content. You follow, sir?
Yes, I do. I'm
there
thinking...
is conscious, I can be consciously aware of the content of my consciousness.
Yes.
My house, my property, my wife, my children, my job, the things I've acquired, the things I've learned, I can be consciously aware of all that. But also there is deeper content in the very recesses of my mind, which is racial, collective, acquired, the things that unconsciously I gathered, the influences, the pressures, the strains of living in a world that's corrupt, all that is seeped in, all that is gathered in there.